Hey guys, welcome to Startups, podcast for me and my co-host Dan. Talk to people about, I guess, the types of businesses they run online and offline. Today we are joined by an exciting guest. Every guest is an exciting guest, but this guest is especially exciting right now. We have David Pakman. How are you doing today, man?
Good. How are you?
We're doing great.
Good.
How are you doing, Dan?
I'm hanging in there. Just excited to get going.
Okay, for those that have like no idea who you are or what you do, how do you introduce yourself to people like in the real world when you try to describe your job? What do you do?
Oh, in the real world, I try not to even talk about what I do just because then it's like, oh, are you on the left or on the right? And it very quickly gets awkward. So honestly, like when people in the real world ask me what I do, I say I'm in media production and hope they don't follow up. But like in the online space, I have a left-wing radio, TV, podcast, and YouTube show and Twitch show, I guess now, newly on Twitch. And I run an ad agency as well.
You run an ad agency. Is this something that's like connected to all of your ventures, or is this something you do totally separately from all of that?
No, it's connected. Yeah, it started with just doing ad sales for my show and then talking to other show hosts who were having trouble kind of cracking the nut of ad sales or just didn't have the resources or the know-how or honestly just like the patience to start developing lead lists and reaching out to people and figuring out pricing. We started offering to do ad sales for other shows, taking a cut like an agency. Started in news and politics, and then eventually we realized, hey, we could just do this for any show. Like it doesn't really have to be news and politics. So we've been expanding. In 2019, we've added tech channels, cooking channels. CBD is now big with the 2018 Farm Bill legalizing industrial hemp. And I'm trying to think if any other areas. We really work in a lot of areas, but yeah, it's all connected to the David Pakman Show in some way.
Now, did this get started just from your own desire to not deal with an outside ad agency, or were you just like, screw it, this is working well for us, let's expand?
Yeah, basically. I mean, I had always been trying to do internal ad sales and never really had a combination of the right team or wasn't big enough yet to do it. And then just like everything came together in 2018 with the right ad sales team, and we were big enough to start getting some larger deals, and it just kind of went from there. And we still work with some outside ad agencies. I mean, we'll probably talk about my broader business philosophy, but my approach is always diversify as much as possible so that I'm not too exposed to the risk of any one revenue source disappearing. And then number two, try to like push cart test any new venture. So the idea there being just let's try it and figure out if there's value without investing too much. And that's where the ad sales stuff basically came from. It was like, can we do one deal with an industry that has nothing to do with news and politics? And the answer was yes. And then from there, we kind of built it up more.
Do you guys have like your own like CDN or not
Love,
CDN?
yeah.
What do you
We
call
need that
the
DND.
what do you call the networks on YouTube? The content managing networks. Do you know what
Oh,
I'm talking
MCN.
about? Oh yeah, MCN. Yeah, that's it. Do you have
No, we
one
don't.
of those? No. Okay. Have you thought about going in that direction since a lot of those guys are based around like selling ads to like a ton of different channels or?
Honestly, not really, only because I don't know. I don't get it's not an obvious win to me, and it seems like a lot of administrative
Overhead, yeah.
kind of pain in the ass, honestly. So no, I haven't really thought about that.
Okay. Where did you?
We should go into his history real
Yeah, so
quick,
I kind of
right?
want to ask like where you started. There's two different ways for me to phrase this question. So the first way is how did you start like building? Because obviously you have like a studio, you've got people that work under you. Like, so how did you start that? But then a very interesting question, just because I have a big fan base that also has a lot of crossover friends with you, is where did you really start? Because on one hand, we see David Pakman. By daylight, he's this guy that does politics online and does left-leaning commentary, and he's got a production stream. But by moonlight, it is the insidious printer ink filling, massage getting, Shutterstock, karate learning. Well, yeah. So I'm curious. Did you start doing like I guess like stock portfolio imaging or what? How did you start doing your stuff online?
Okay, so I mean, there's like two answers. The genesis of the David Pakman Show and everything that I do now really started in 2005 when I was a junior at the University of Massachusetts, and I started a community radio show. That's basically it. And it started on one station, and then I added a podcast, started calling other stations and saying, I do a show, do you want it? And a bunch of them started saying, sure, we'll put it on at 3 a.m. And it just built from there. Added a YouTube channel, added a video version, added ad sales, membership program, etc. So that's like one trajectory.
How
The
old were
stuff
you
here,
when you started doing
I was
this?
21, 21.
Okay, 21 years old. What were you in
Yeah.
school for?
Economics and communication. And then I kept doing it when I was in grad school getting my MBA.
Okay, and this was around 2008, 2007-ish, or?
Started my MBA in '06 and finished in '09. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Cool. Just trying to keep the timeline.
So then at the same time, like at the beginning, my show didn't make any money.
Mm-hmm.
For several years, it made no money. This
Can
was
I
like pre
what,
YouTube. Yeah.
one more quick thing. Oh, I'm really curious. Yeah. So you started your radio show back then, and you were going after an MBA. Were you still, I mean, we say liberal back then? Were you still like a Democrat, or were you more right-leaning? Just curious.
I've never been a registered Democrat, but I've always been pretty left-wing. Yeah.
Was that strange being like an MBA? I feel like most of the econ people tend to be a little bit more right-leaning on universities.
Well, econ and MBA, remember, are two different things. So number one, I was in econ at the University of Massachusetts, which was like one of the few economics programs that actually had Marxist professors.
Mm-hmm.
So
was that was the Amherst campus then?
yeah, Richard Wolff, who now is sort of like a somewhat well-known left-leaning economist, was actually my econ 102 professor when I was 20 years old, which is pretty crazy. But no, I was always pretty left. And then even in grad school, I went to Bentley University for my MBA. Yes, it's business school, but it's also Massachusetts, so it's like, it's not Northwestern, if that makes sense.
Okay. Okay, cool. Gotcha. Okay, so then you said you were getting your radio thing going, working on your MBA, branching out.
Yeah. And so it didn't make any money originally. So I was doing basically with my brother and my former radio producer, we started like a very small instructional video and documentary video production thing. And we had a couple of clients, Expert Village and eHow. And eventually a lot of the people we worked with needed either someone to be massaged or someone to play basketball again. So I ended up participating in these really like low budget instructional videos, which now a lot of my audience has dug up and screenshotted particularly awkward moments of.
Okay. And you did this part of in the beginning because of your advertising stuff, or what was the connection in the beginning, how you got drafted into that?
I don't even know. I mean, I think a friend of mine said, "Hey, I'm producing documentaries for these companies. They're looking for more people." And I said, "I have cameras. I can do that on the side."
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what was like the it's interesting because we talked to Sam Cedar about this, kind of like the jump from like traditional media into kind of like online media and the differences in these platforms. Did you have like a big jump when you were like, okay, I'm done with kind of like the college radio or done with the radio stuff and I'm going exclusively to online stuff? Or was this more graduated or what was this process
No,
like?
I never did that. I mean, we're currently on 200 radio and TV stations and satellite TV. So like I never abandoned that, although I'm not actively growing it at this point, because the truth is it really doesn't generate any of our revenue. I kind of do it as a public service. It's at my cost that I continue distributing my show to public radio and television stations. We lose money on that, but I built the network and there's an audience there, and I can conceivably still monetize it by transferring some of those people into paid members or online viewers. So there was no point at which I abandoned it, but I think that probably 2 years after launching on YouTube, like 2011, it was very clear that like the potential for the revenue side was not in traditional media, it was in online media.
For sure. Do you how many people work with your like company now, or like how would you describe yourself in terms of like your production and like your ad sales? Like how many people altogether are like associated with your businesses?
I guess in some way, shape, or form, if you include like direct employees, freelancers, management, and all of that stuff, I guess it's like 8 people in total.
Oh. And did you bring on a majority of these people recently, or you kind of had the same people for a while, or have you experienced any big growth with your channel?
It's all been slow and steady. I mean, that's the weird thing that I was talking to someone about the other day, where it's like, there's never been a single day where there was any significant growth. So like the last 12 years, I've just been hammering away, rinse, repeat, modifying processes, and just being really consistent with content and improving stuff, where I could not identify any single day where the show grew drastically. It's just like we have one more affiliate from one day to the next, or we've got another 500 YouTube subscribers or another 25 paid members. But in that sense, like it feels like I'm doing the exact same thing. in one sense. And at the same time, like it's changed so drastically, but there's never any like, okay, now you've made it to X level, because it's just like a little bit at a time grinding it out.
So you mentioned you have an ad agency as well, and you run that in addition to doing your show. Do you think that in the future that there is potential that you're going to have to kind of choose sides on which one you do, and how is that going to work? Like you, and actually a better question here would be, how is the ad agency growing in terms of velocity compared to your existing show?
It's pretty similar, honestly, in terms of growth, because the notoriety of the David Pakman Show helps us to bring on new brands and new channels that we're working with. So it's really working hand in hand pretty well. I mean, it's conceivable that at some point there would have to be, some managing director of the ad side, and I would step back conceivably. I can't really step back from hosting my own show, and I'm aware of that, and it's working fine right now.
Do you feel with the ad agency business and running that, do you think that does it ever bleed over into your show at all, where you're kind of afraid to talk about certain things because maybe it's revolving around one of your sponsors or one of the clients you've worked with before? And how do you handle that if that is going to come up?
No, I mean, to be honest, I never talk to my own advertisers, and I think I've only talked to advertisers for agency deals that are on like other brands. A couple of times when there was like, shit hit the fan in some way, shape, or form. But basically, I just don't even have contact. So fortunately, it's not come up. Nobody has ever tried to impose any restrictions on me, either in terms of what stories I should cover or how I should cover them or what I should or shouldn't say. So it's just not come up. And fortunately, I mean, our team makes it pretty clear. Like, it's just not the way we operate. It's not going to work that way, period. And we've set pretty good boundaries, and it's never been an issue.
Interesting.
From the
go ahead, Steve.
From the business side of things, so like the two main branches or whatever of your business are, you have like the political online commentary stuff that you do, and then you have like this ad agency.
Hold on, did my image just flip, guys?
It might have. I'm not staring.
That's so weird. That's very strange. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. But yeah, so you have these kind of like two main branches of your business. How much time, I guess, so I'm interested obviously in the political side because that's what I do. Do you spend a lot of time firsthand kind of like gathering data or, reading articles, or do you have people that kind of like aggregate stuff for you and like, hey, check this out, like this is on your desk now, look into this? How does that work?
The one thing that I have not delegated, and I tested delegating some of this stuff, but I found out that the key thing about my show is just, it's got to be my voice. It's got to be my story choice. It's got to be my prep and my presentation. So I do 100% of that. I am picking 100% of the stories. I'm researching every story, period. And that I just feel like that's such like an integral part of what I'm doing that I don't delegate off any of that stuff. The tech stuff I'm doing almost none of now. The ad sales stuff I'm doing almost none of now, but I'm still preparing and writing every single show myself.
How much time do you spend like every day reading or just like doing stuff related to political stuff? Is this like
I don't know. I mean, less than most people assume when I tell them. I mean, I'm probably doing for each hour or each 75-minute show, I'm probably spending like an hour in the afternoon prepping for the next day, and then another 45 minutes in the morning. Like that's probably the prep.
Sure. Okay.
As far as new opportunities, we see that you're getting into Twitch.
Yep.
How's that going? And then what other ideas do you have moving forward as well?
Twitch is going well. I mean, so my following on YouTube, I built up over a decade, and we're sort of like on track to hit 1 million subscribers sometime in like the next 12 months or something like that. And a bunch of my audience has been encouraging me to get on Twitch. I made an account like a year ago and then didn't really know what to do on Twitch, so didn't join. What pushed me actually to really get started on Twitch was when CNN cut my stream of the presidential debate last week. So I've been on Twitch in a serious way for like 10 days.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different type of engagement. I feel that there's like a connection to the audience that just is not there on YouTube. It's not better or worse. It's just different. It's more direct in a very particular way. And it's going great so far. So I'm thinking of what unique stuff can I do on Twitch? How can we build that out? And I mean, my goal is to try to build Twitch to where it is at least, like a quarter of what I've got going on YouTube. And then I think it'll be a big part of my business and a big part of my total engagement.
Do you think that you're going to be at a point where you'll be streaming daily, or do you think, like, how often do you imagine you're going to be doing it?
I don't imagine that I'll be doing it daily. My approach is, like, for example, this week, I set up an event on Twitch for tomorrow, Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. And then yesterday on my broadcast show and today on my broadcast show. And tomorrow I'll promote that will be an event, and then I'll do it. And then I'll think about the next event. But I don't see myself just being like a daily streamer on Twitch at this point in time.
I mean, I think a big part of it is to let go of prepared content. Like it kind of sounds a little bit like you're using Twitch like, hey, I'll come on because I have an event. But a big part of Twitch is you have no event. And in fact, people would just love to watch you doing your research for the show you're going to be doing later that day. Like that would be the content they would love versus more than anything else.
I actually did that on Sunday night. So Sunday night I did a stream. And so I'm planning the time of the events, but I am not planning what I'm doing. And my thought is in the 15 minutes beforehand, I'll just figure out what am I doing. Maybe I just open up the phone lines and let people call in and just hear from people, or maybe not. But just in order to, I do find that with what my audience is expecting, I'm sort of clear about like when are things happening, but I have not been structuring the streams at all. And I think you're totally right. It's just kind of what's going on. What do I feel like doing? And, am I playing chess? Am I taking phone calls? Am I doing show prep or whatever? And that's my plan right now.
Have you thought about, or actually on your channel, are your broadcasts live or are they always pre-recorded and then?
Always pre-recorded.
Gotcha. Do you do like a lot of like in terms of cutting, or like how many takes? Like if you're filming like a segment on average, is it usually like a one and done, or is there like a lot of editing that goes in? Yeah.
It's one and done. The show is entirely live to tape, and I can think of, in the last 5 years, there have probably been like, I can't think of the last time anything was redone or whatever. It's pre-recorded because we edit in a bunch of stuff. And we're doing a TV show and a podcast and all of these different things. So it's really just for tech reasons that we do it that way, but it's a live to tape show. If there's 45 minutes of content, it takes me 45 minutes to film that, and that's it.
Gotcha. The only reason I ask is because like a lot of people do like simul streams where you can stream simultaneously to YouTube and to Twitch at the same time. So it seems like you could do like a stream to Twitch and also like I guess a stream to tape, or like a recording at the same time too. Would be an easy way to kind of like hit both of those avenues up.
Yeah, honestly, the problems that we had most often was that interview guests, it's just like no one's ever ready on time. We connect and like their video is vertical and we've got to spend 10 minutes fixing it or whatever. Yeah. So it was just like years ago, before I even first moved to New York City, we actually did the show live, and every day it was just like thrown into disarray because the guests were just not prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've experienced a little bit of that ourselves, and probably just getting started. So.
Did you want to ask a question, or what we?
Oh no. So did you grow up in Massachusetts? You went to 2 colleges in Massachusetts?
Yep, I was born in Argentina, but my family moved to the U.S. when I was 5, and I basically, other than 3 years that I spent in New York City, I've lived in Massachusetts my whole life.
Oh, interesting. And was that in the Western Mass area around UMass? Or?
That's where I grew up originally, then moved to New York City, and then I've been in Boston for like the last 4 years.
I'm curious because I'm also I grew up in Amherst.
No way.
Do you feel like any of that environment like that? I've been a lot of places. I've moved around. That's probably one of the most liberal places, like Northampton, Amherst, in the country, I think. Yep. I could be wrong with this, but that dwarfs even places like San Francisco. Do you think that like environment had a big factor in just your choices today at all?
I think it did, but probably not in the way you would assume. Yes, Western Massachusetts, what's called the Pioneer Valley, is super left. But in some sense, like my family was left anyway, so I would have probably been left no matter where I grew up. But I feel like living in such a liberal area did give me pause about just jumping on board with like every aspect of progressive left-wing orthodoxy. So like my view on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is probably not that much in line with the sort of Northampton, Amherst, Massachusetts standard view. I understand how identity is important to consider because it informs sort of our understanding of things in the world, but I'm not like an identity politics guy, and I've been critical of that. I'm not about like on-campus suppression of speech to the extent that it's a problem or any of that stuff. So yes, I mean, growing up in that area definitely affected my politics, but not in the way that most people would probably just assume made me cling to all of the traditional litmus tests of the area.
So we've watched a few of your clips here, and it seems like you're kind of experiencing a little bit of the pushback of the fringes of the left here.
Oh
Are
wait,
you,
hold
have
on,
you
wait.
ever
Before we get into that, because that's kind of like a side. Just yeah. Wait. So I'm kind of curious then, in terms of in terms of future plans. You mentioned that you're going to hit like 1 million subs on your channel soon. And
Well,
then you
soon.
also,
I mean, I hope within the next year. Yeah.
yeah, soonish compared to the overall Lifetime channel. And then you're also like moving into Twitch a little bit more. On two ends, where realistically do you see yourself going in the next like 6 months to 2 years, I guess? Like, what are your kind of like future plans that you hope to do? And what is like the dream for you? Like, do you want to be involved more with like major media that's like more traditional, or do you just want to see your normal platforms continue to grow? Do you want to collaborate with more people more?
No, I mean, I think that like 7 years ago, my thought was, let me just get big enough so that networks will pay attention to me and then hire me. But I know a lot of people do that now, and it just doesn't seem like it's for me. I mean, I haven't had a boss for like 12 years. I just don't think I could really go back. I mean, it would be a real personal crisis if my business failed and I had to go and work for someone. So no, I mean, my goal right now is not to do anything more corporate or mainstream. It's just to keep building what I'm doing, and to continue to just have the freedom to like do what I want to do, to turn down what I don't want to do, period. And just grow the platforms I have, grow the ad agency, and keep doing what I'm doing.
For the 8 people that are working with you, are they all full-time employees of yours, or?
No, they're not. No, they're
Okay.
not. So it's two full-timers and then a part-timer and then freelancers. And then some of the people are doing what they do for me for other shows and people as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
who are the next people you're thinking about bringing on? Like, as far as like growing the business, what's the next person you're like, okay, I know I'm going to have to hire, an actual professional X? Is anything like?
I don't know. I mean, there's two ways that could go. One is depending on what happens with what I'd call new online platforms. So I include Twitch and some others that we're starting to get involved in. If those grow enough to justify it, I would probably need more support in engaging exclusively with some of those platforms because YouTube takes up so much of our time right now. And then on the ad sales side, we're starting to get to the point where we probably are going to need to start segmenting, like, do we have different people doing the brand side and the publisher side, or do we need to kind of like focus people in on news and politics and then like non-news and politics stuff? It's kind of an open question, but that's a direction things are going to.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think in particular, when it comes to like the ad agency side of the business, you find that a lot of these people that you deal with, it's very kind of old boys club, and eventually you have to kind of hire someone who knows someone who does this and can get you this deals, and it's a little bit obnoxious how that still works to this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we're just not having that much. So there's like a self-selection bias where because that exists, we don't have the old boy stuff. So we don't get too many of those deals with like the big legacy advertisers or agencies. So we're just basically doing deals with other people. If we had someone who had those connections, we would probably be doing better. We don't have that person. So we're just kind of like building the business in a different way. It may be limiting over the long run. But yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point for sure.
In terms of, so this is kind of like hitting into the thing that Dan talked about earlier. Obviously, I think doing online content related to politics, I would say you occupy kind of a special space on the internet compared to more either entertainment related stuff or video games or reviews or whatever. What are some of the most like challenging aspects of your job in terms of dealing with other people online related to the political stuff or maybe even the non-political stuff?
Quite frankly, it's just getting used to the fact that I get, 5,000 messages a day across platforms, and 85% of them are terrible, like, negative comments. I mean, it honestly, like, from the beginning, that was the thing to get used to. Like, the number of people who send me stuff about Jews in ovens who don't even know me personally because I have an opinion on the internet is like, you have to deal with that one way or the other. That I think is the biggest thing to get used to. And people in like my real life will say, "Oh, I saw that hate mail you got. Like, I can't believe that." And it's like, which one are you talking about? I've forgotten it or blocked it out or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, quote, civilians just have no idea how you have to just kind of like desensitize yourself to that.
For sure. This is weird. I have no context to which to draw into this. In terms of like being Jewish, do you view certain groups of people like a different way? Like, it's really weird for me because like when I'm dealing with certain people online, like people will like personally hate me, but I don't like, there's not usually people calling for like my extinction of like a certain group of people that I belong to. Is it weird to like deal with groups like the alt-right that are like in favor, that think that you like run a big conspiracy that control the world? Is that something that like that hits a little bit differently or something? Or I don't know how strongly you identify with the Jew thing or how that works.
It definitely does. I mean, let me see. I might even be able to pull up an example. I mean, I'm 100% identify with being like culturally Jewish and sort of like the traditions. I'm not a religious person whatsoever.
Sure.
So, I don't get into any religious stuff. I don't believe any of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, when I get an email from someone who basically is like, it has no what I say doesn't matter. It's just like the fact that I am Jewish is what they see as disqualifying my opinion. That is where it's like, how can I even engage? And to be clear, I don't engage with that. I mean, I only talk about politics on my show. I don't even really like talking about politics like in my regular life. I get enough of it on my show. It's much more interesting to me to talk about the business of media than about Trump or electoral politics in my regular life. And I don't have time to be engaging in politics by email with viewers.
Yeah.
And a lot of them get mad about that, but it's like, I'm busy enough doing my show. So it's not that I'm engaging with that, but seeing that stuff come in. The other thing I also think about is, what's going on in your life that you decide, I think I'm going to send a guy I don't even know an anti-Semitic email over the internet. Like, I've never emailed or engaged with any host of any show that I've ever seen. Like, it would never occur to me to try to email Anderson Cooper because of a segment he did. So I'm also trying to like think about who are the people that are sending these screeds.
The thing that's really like interesting is like, you assume that most of these people, like for the most part, might be memeing, but like they're not, because they go to this extra level to contact you. But the big thing is like, who actually believes that it's like, all right, it's Friday, all the Jews are getting together because we have to have our weekly meetings to decide like who we're gonna like push down and whatnot. Like, are you serious? Like, have people not seen like Jewish people interact? Like, we hate each other for the most part, but still like this like thing exists, like it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, honestly, I mean, it doesn't even have to be too much about that. This applies to like flat Earth. This applies to whatever. I just feel like I have way too much going on in my life to even think about engaging with it in any kind of substantive way. And sort of, I kind of like catalog it. I forward it to the FBI if I think it warrants it. And then that's sort of it. And I'm just kind of busy doing my thing.
Do you think so? As somebody, and then again, because I just have no idea like what your lived experience is like. Do you deal with a lot of anti-Semitism like 5 to 10 years ago, or do you think it's gotten worse? Is this something that you think is like on the uptick, or?
It's so hard to say because I feel like I deal with it as a function of the size of, and 10 years ago, my audience was a fraction of what it is now. Okay. So like, as a percentage of my audience, am I dealing with more anti-Semitism now? Maybe slightly. I mean, I think people are definitely more emboldened under the current administration, but I don't think that there is necessarily. I mean, I think it's just in proportion to the size of my audience, quite frankly.
Interesting. Okay. What are in terms of like managing your community? What kind, do you do any outreach? I noticed that like in terms of like online people, it seems like but the impression that I get is that your direct interacting with your audience is fairly limited, except you are active on your subreddit. You do actually post there and respond to posts, I see, and sometimes even in mine. Do you intentionally like not interact that much, or do you think you do and people just don't see it in other ways? Or what kind of like thoughts do you have in regards to associating with your fan base, I guess, or anti-fan?
Basically, I mean, I want to be present and visible, but it's totally out of scope to be responding to even like a significant fraction of the inbound messages that I get. So
Mhm.
I'm on YouTube, I'm basically not participating. It's just not possible. I think we get like 2,500 comments a day on YouTube, and people on my team are sort of like managing what's going on there.
Mhm.
We basically don't do any moderation of content. I mean, it's just too time consuming, and we
Yeah.
really can't do it. So oftentimes people are like, "Why'd you ban me?" And it's like, we didn't. Either a moderator on Reddit did, or a YouTube moderator, or you were flagged by the community, or I don't know. I mean, we really can't do that. I try to just be present a little bit on every platform. I am engaging more directly on Twitch because people like you and others have told me that's what's expected on Twitch. And if you want to succeed on Twitch, that's what you have to do. I'll pop into the subreddit on Twitter. I'm increasingly following and responding to like my verified feed, because it's just the regular feed is just a shit show and I can't keep up with it. It's just, the noise to signal ratio is just like way too high.
Mhm.
And by email, if people write in because they have like a guest suggestion, they have a business proposal, they have a problem with their membership or whatever, I'm involved. But people who are just writing in wanting to engage in politics by email, like that's outside of the scope of what I can do right now.
For sure. So everybody gives a different answer on this. Do you read comments or social media interaction at all, or do you try your best to just completely avoid it?
No, I glance at it. I mean, so each day we put like 5 clips up on. The next day, when I like set a time to actually look at social media stuff,
Mhm.
I will look at like what are the most liked clips
Okay.
on YouTube. I will check out what's on the subreddit. I'll look at Twitter, and again, usually I'm just looking at the verified feed. I'll respond to some people, so I have like a sense of what's going on.
Okay. And then this is also picking up a little bit what the question Dan was asking. So I noticed that, like, as an online commentator, there are stories that I can cover, or there are things that I can talk about that will get me easy hits, easy views, and my fan base will be ecstatic. Right? I
Right.
could spend 3 weeks shitting on every single thing Trump has said, and people will love it for a long time. But then if I might be critical of, say, like AOC's chief of staff or something, right? Like the responses are a lot either more muted, people don't care, or turn vitriolic very quickly. Like, wow, what are you doing? Why are you a traitor? How much do you let community feedback drive the decisions that you make for your content, whether it's stories you cover or the type of content you do?
Well, so I did a segment a couple weeks ago where I basically admitted that I had been awfully self-censoring on some issues,
Mm-hmm.
because there's like relatively little upside to talking about them, and like anything but glowing segments about any member of the squad is definitely on that list. Talking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is on that list. Talking about Venezuela in anything but glowing terms with regard to Hugo Chavez or Nicolas Maduro is probably on that list. There's a few things. So, I mean, yes, to some degree, like what I'm doing on my show is I'm trying to pick a combination of stories that are going to be things that I think are important, that will resonate with my audience, and that will do well. Because ultimately, like, if everything I do doesn't get any views, I don't make any money, and then I go out of business. But I'm making more of like a renewed effort to just cover what I think is important in the way I should cover it. And oftentimes the feedback is like not good,
Mm-hmm.
and I just deal with it, and that's it. I mean, it's like there's so many ways that we could pick the topics we do. It could be what will do best on YouTube, what will remain monetized on YouTube, what will get me more paid members, what's going to do better on Twitch, what will get me more people contacting me so it'll get me more online interaction. Like, ultimately, I prefer to just figure out like what 8 things do I think are important to talk about today, that I can have some kind of opinion that won't be the same as everybody else, and that's what I'm just trying to increasingly do. But yeah, I mean, what you're talking about happens to me as well, and it's an issue.
Okay. Do you have anything, Dan?
Oh, yeah. So you running the ad agency right now, do you plan on this being like a major company, or are you just gonna try and keep it relatively small, cover a few people? Or are you like, listen, if I keep doing this how I'm doing it, I'm gonna have 100 employees, possibly take this public? Like, where's the aspirations go for that?
No, I don't have aspirations to take it public. I mean, here's the thing. I don't think I want to work that hard, to be quite honest. I mean, it's like I'm thinking of my business more as I'm not thinking about it as a business that would potentially go public. The ad agency is something that could potentially be sold at some point. Ad agencies and their books of business are regularly bought and sold. That's exciting, because the David Pakman show is not going to be sold. I mean, it's just not. it's not a sellable entity in the sense of, I mean, okay, someone could basically buy me off of my platforms and just hire me to host a show for them, but it would have to be extraordinarily lucrative for me to even consider having a boss in that way. So like that's not going to sell. So the idea of the ad agency is that I could actually be developing like a sellable business, and that's different than what I've been doing for the last many years.
Are you interested in essentially getting, how do I say this? Creating a business to be sold is most people recommend against that. I assume that's not a motivation of doing the ad agency business.
No.
Or is that just like an afterthought? Okay, good.
It's an afterthought. This is an interesting thing, which if it got big enough, could actually be something that if I no longer wanted to do, could be sold. Whereas the show is like, I'm hosting the show. So it's just, I'm the show basically.
Well, there is potential though for even the David Pakman show to essentially be acquired by rights as it grows, right? Like someone could, I mean, we have the Steve Harvey show. I don't think Steve Harvey owns that show, right? Like, so he might own part of it or something along those lines. But as things grow, there's the potential, I assume. Do you have desire to go into that, to be like a mass market type of thing? Or are you just, I want to stay where I am and what?
Again, I mean, I think that would push me into having some kind of editor boss or someone overseeing what I do. And it's going well now. I like just having total control over what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and when I'm doing it and how much vacation time I take and all of this stuff. So it's not hugely appealing. Like the money would have to be so overwhelmingly crazy to get me to consider it.
So, I mean, I assume we're talking about like fuck you money to the point where you would never have to work again at that point. And for that, you would go nuts? Or
I have no, honestly, it's like, it just seems so unlikely that I've not considered that serious of a way.
I wouldn't say that it seems unlikely. I mean, as your show continues to gain influence and grow, like, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are very interested in reaching these audiences. I mean, these are new media formats to a certain extent, not so much YouTube, but Twitch and things like that. As you grow that, like, there's a lot of like eyeballs on this new forms of communication. And when that happens, people go kind of crazy with spending money to get that content right away.
I don't think anybody's actually like bought out like a YouTube channel before though, or anything like that, right? I don't think
I've not heard of it.
Yeah. It would be interesting, but
I'm sure it's happened on, like, I mean, what is it? They don't typically buy the YouTube channel. They buy, was it the network that has the rights to all the channels under it? Or is that the MCN or something you're talking about?
Well, I think like the most likely thing is
the one that Disney bought. The
game station?
Yeah, maybe that was it. I'm not sure.
But that's incorporated under like an MCN, I think, or something. Like that's not, they don't actually like own like the rights of any of the people or whatever.
I feel like the most likely scenario would be that someone comes to me and would say, I mean, this is totally hypothetical. Okay, you're on your own YouTube channel, you're on Twitch, you're distributing your show to these 200 radio and TV stations. What we want to do is basically like hire you on a 5-year contract where you stop all of that. You just produce your show for us and we distribute it how we want, and you no longer are the one directly choosing like what platforms you're on. That's the scenario that, if I had to think, seems like even remotely plausible.
Or maybe an investor as well, someone who appreciates your content and wants to help you to grow. Do you think you would be up for that type of thing?
The show actually already has investors. We did an angel round 3.5 years ago, and so that we already did, and that led to the Boston studio when we moved from New York, and bringing on like the first full-time staff. So that we already did. A bigger round, I just don't think is super interesting to me right now, especially because I just don't see there being a realistic exit strategy where, again, the show would be sold. So I just don't see the advantage to doing that right now.
Yeah, it's going to be a different type of investor relationship where they're trying to hope to get their money back, I guess, on a monthly or yearly basis off of net profit versus the company being sold, which is certainly where most people invest into.
Yeah, it's more of like the coffee table investor perspective of not looking to get 1,000x on the moonshot, but just trying to continue to increase revenues and start collecting distributions.
I wanted to ask specifically, how does political content monetize these days as opposed to non-political content? What are the struggles that you may face with that or not face with?
So on a CPM basis, I have no idea what non makes. So that I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, your mic cuts out occasionally now sometimes. On a CPM basis, you have no idea what makes? Sorry.
Sorry, let me just make sure I'm fully plugged in here.
Yeah.
CPM wise, I don't know what non-political stuff makes. I just have no idea because I'm only in politics. What I can tell you is that, for example, this week, like any clip about the shootings just is not monetized by YouTube. I know going in, it's not going to be monetized.
Mhm.
I still do it because I think it's important. But in that sense, there's a lot of topics. Like I'm guessing that if you're in music or you're in makeup or whatever else, there aren't going to be, it's not as likely that there's going to be content that is just too controversial to be monetized by YouTube. So that's like an ongoing challenge that I deal with.
We spoke in the start of this show, and we were talking about Twitch and how the value to you was way more than a YouTube subscriber was. Do you think that it's possible that Twitch could potentially overtake YouTube in terms of value to what you do if it grows how it continues?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that if I had 700,000 subscribers on Twitch, based just on the numbers that I'm seeing so far, Twitch would absolutely be more valuable to me than YouTube, just from the level of engagement, the percentage of the followers that are becoming paid subscribers. Absolutely.
Do you think so? Why not try streaming more regularly with that? Like, why are you keeping it so? Because I mean, I think
Real quick, I'm sorry. Hold on, just because people in chat are saying it. When you say subscribers on Twitch, what David probably means is followers. Usually on Twitch, when we say subscribers, that means like a paying viewer. Or whatever.
No, that's what I mean. What I mean is the subscriber to follower ratio on Twitch is significantly higher than on YouTube.
Yeah, for sure.
Saying if you got the 700,000 followers.
Yeah. Okay. Because some people thought you meant 700,000 subscribers, which would be the largest. It would be insane. Yeah. But okay. Okay. People. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So if you ask Steven, or I think pretty much any other successful streamer, what's the number one most important thing you can do to be successful on Twitch? It's like not even be funny or be personable or anything. It's literally just stream every day. So I think like if you want to grow the fastest, that would be something you would have to consider. Do you have any plans on this, or what's the catalyst that you're waiting for to start doing something like that?
No, I'm not waiting for any. I mean, my approach is, so, I've been on Twitch, I guess at this point for like 8 days, and I've done 4 streams in total. And we've been premiering custom edits of our daily show on Twitch daily as well, and just testing out different things. I mean, I am going to continue putting into it more and more if we're getting more and more out of it. And it's sort of a circle. And there's no question that, I mean, it's I'm completely willing and interested in doing that. And I see myself being on Twitch more and more as it continues to grow.
Do you picture yourself doing additional shows and bringing on kind of new, essentially new co-hosts and trying to like make additional political shows so you can maybe distance yourself, or not distance yourself, but grow the political content like that way? Or are you pretty much just resigning the fact that in 50 years you'll still be doing the show as yourself?
I don't know that in 50 years but no, I mean, there were years ago, I started to think about my business as trying to produce and curate other shows that I'm not hosting. And after dabbling in it for about a year, I decided I just don't want to do it. And I don't want to do it just because I realized that although I can't remove myself from my show, I was more interested in pursuing the ad agency as a side business than the production of other shows. And there's less capital overhead for that. There's also just the personality issues are less difficult. It's much easier to deal with staffing issues in an ad agency than it is with personalities. So, with peace and love to everybody who's doing it and friends that are doing it, awesome. I'm not interested in that, and I don't see myself being interested in it anytime soon.
This is a totally random. How good are you at chess? Do you have like an ELO or anything, or?
I'm not that good. I'm like 1,300 on 10-minute games and like 1,100 and I'm not very.
Wait, 1,100 and what?
Like quicker games, shorter games.
Do you ever play 30-second, zero increment games?
I have not. I mean, I think maybe once as a.
Okay. Yeah, those games are for very strange people. That
I've got a friend and we hammer these out, but we're both so bad at chess, it's embarrassing. But it's fun to do.
What's your rating?
Well, if I only play games against him, I could probably get up to like 1,600, but that's just grinding on one person. Honestly, it's very, very, very low. I imagine.
Oh, all right. Because people on my stream were saying that you're actually pretty.
I'm good when I play my one friend. What do you start at? Is it 1,100 or something?
1500 with a question mark on Lee chess is where you start, I believe.
Okay, if 1500 was like the average chess player on like Lee chess.
I don't think it's average, but I think it's just the standard provisional rating.
Oh,
You
okay.
start there, but you can go down.
If you've ever
Yeah,
learned
oh, yeah,
anything formally about chess in your life, you'll know a lot more than me. That's it. But I play quickly, and I usually scream at him while we play, and then he gets nervous, and then he runs out of time, and that's usually what we do.
I would like to get better, and I've taken with
You're cutting
with
out a lot.
Yeah, wait,
Oh,
you're
right.
taking what? Sorry.
You know what's weird? You guys are also cutting out on my end. That's weird. I don't know what would be causing that.
Oh, shit. Maybe it's the Discord server. But I'm sorry, what did we say? You said you would like to learn more chess or whatever?
I would like to be better at chess. I like playing. It's like totally different from what I do in my.
Have you ever thought
Better.
about incorporating music at all into anything you do? I was surprised when we were hanging out with Hassan to find out that you're like a drummer, like an actual, and like you play like a decent amount.
Well, I pitched you and Fantano an idea, which
Yeah,
has,
we were supposed to make the band. I don't know if that's gonna work out or not, because like I don't have a studio to record it or whatever. But
don't you just have like you can record yourself on keys, right?
yeah, I mean theoretically I can play keyboard. Yeah, I don't know what we would actually do or who would write music for us, but
Most important thing is what would be the name of this band?
Well,
Children of the Lie.
yeah, it's a
I
Jesse
said
Lee
it.
Peterson thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's a good idea, but in any case, yeah, I don't know. People have said I should play drums on stream, but it doesn't sound that interesting.
Yeah, it seems like it would be hard to incorporate into stuff.
Yeah.
Like political conversations. I'm not really sure how you would do it.
No, I don't know.
Yeah. Is there any other business related stuff you can think of before we throw in the random curveball political questions, Dan? What
Business
do you think?
stuff? No, I don't know.
Wait, have you had any like amazing like business stories or anything like that that's happened in your past? Anything of value? It is one moment. You almost got invested by I don't know, Zuckerberg or something, but
I do have one story, and I have to be sort of careful, but let me think about this. I've never told this story before,
Good,
and I'm going to be very
thanks.
careful about it. So years ago, when I lived in New York City, and my show was way, way, way smaller, where like the amount of money that would have pulled me away from my show was much, much smaller. I was contacted by an online news startup that at the time didn't even exist. Like it had just gotten investor funding and it wasn't anything yet. Now everybody who follows online news would know what brand this is, but I'm not going to say it. And they said, David, we're interested in you. Can you come meet with us? And I was such a novice in business at the time that I said, I need like representation to come with me. So I contacted like the only talent manager that I knew at the time. So I had no frame of reference as to whether this person knew what they were doing or not. I really hope people don't figure out what I'm talking about here. And so I said, I'm going to bring this manager with me because I'm going to appear more professional. And it's just like, there could be negotiations and this is just going to help me. And this person was so abrasive and got along so poorly with the people that were pursuing me that it instantly torpedoed any chance of me being hired by this company. And later, they basically just kind of like ghosted me. And later, once the person who had reached out to me no longer worked there, I was able to say to him, can you level with me? Like, was it because I brought that manager with me that nothing happened? And he said, yeah, it was. Like that person just, everybody was so put off by that person that we were just like, we can't work with David Pakman because of that. And honestly, like, I don't know that it was a bad thing. In retrospect, I think if I had been working for that company, because of how that company has kind of like gone since, I don't think I'd be particularly happy. I would have bosses. I would probably have like, I'd be on my 10th boss. So I'm actually glad it didn't work out, but it was just a huge mistake on my part. And now I just try to represent myself.
Does that person know?
They torpedoed it?
Yeah.
I don't think that the person ever found out me never getting a deal. Yeah.
Was he ever somebody that you did more work with, or was that just like a one-time thing? You kind of reached out to him, or?
Well, I didn't say whether it was he or she, but it is someone that I did a tiny bit of work with in the future.
I like that.
And I worked with them like once more, and you know, we don't really talk anymore.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm more interested. We picked up on that. It didn't say he was he or she. That's like some.
Okay.
serious
Anyway,
hot
moving
stuff
on.
we got
Listen,
going
we're
on.
respecting the
Interesting.
anonymity.
Jesus.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
I'm just saying he's been trained like Inception style of things not to say these moments.
It's not for any like trans rights thing. I just deliberately kept gender out
Oh yeah.
person, to be clear.
All right, fine. We can go off into political memes. I know this is what Steven has been waiting
Oh
for
no,
this
they're
entire
just
call.
random thing. I think like, we're mostly focused on business.
All right.
But I think we covered like most of the things. I mean, going forward, so it seems like for the most part, I too, I've grown similar to you. Like it's just been a gradual thing. I think I actually prefer it, rather than like you have like your one explosive moment that plummets you, or not plummets you, I guess, propels you into the spotlight. Like it's cool to have like that slow, steady, gradual growth. It feels more earned, and things feel more real or tangible, rather than having like an explosive moment and then you're worried it's all going to fall away. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and then the slow growth continuing. I mean, we look forward, obviously, to seeing you continue on Twitch. I think would be like really cool. Be careful covering the debates. I think you got nabbed the first night you did the CNN debate.
On YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard about this or not, but on the second night, me, Hassan Piker, and another guy, Trihex, we all got DMCA'd by CNN and we got taken down.
Yep.
Well, yeah, so it's a scary world out there. Have you?
So what are the repercussions of that? So I know that you couldn't stream.
Yes.
Any other
Well,
repercussions?
so you get a 24-hour suspension from the site, and if you collect 3 of those DMCA's, you are permanently banned.
Okay.
Wait, is that 3 over a period of time or for the lifetime of your
The
account?
period of time is the heat death of the universe, so it's infinite.
Oh, that's not good. That's actually scary. Then.
Yeah, it
'Cause
is.
at
Oh,
least
that's
on
like-
YouTube,
that's
they
like- You're a huge deal. Do you have any more of these, Stephen?
I only have 1, but yeah, it's really scary because actually I don't want to even get a single one because I don't know. There's like a weird meta where if I had 2 copyright strikes, I think I would have to quit streaming on Twitch, because there's this really weird rule on Twitch where if you're banned, you're not allowed to show up on anybody else's stream. So if you're close to getting banned, it might be a better business decision to stop streaming on Twitch and then go stream on another platform so that you can still talk to people on Twitch. Because if you keep streaming till you get permanently banned, then you've cut off all that collaboration opportunity.
Just stop streaming so the subs keep going as well.
Yeah,
Just
that
before they
that
get-
too, I guess we want to. Yeah, but yeah, it's pretty scary.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's your strategy for getting people to remember to renew Twitch Prime subs?
I stream, especially this month, like 10 hours a day. So if it comes up, you're watching, like you know it. But like it really does come down sometimes to a function of time, to where like the more you stream, the more people see you, the more they've got you baked into their schedule, the more likely they are to subscribe to you because they're giving you a ton of their time, and it's a I guess a worthwhile trade of their money for your content. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Let's see. Oh, okay. Well, now that we have you for random political questions, you did a did you do a prep to help Hassan get ready to debate Cenk? I think he did today for capitalism. Was that?
I mean, sort of like 20 minutes before he said, and I said, I'm streaming. I'll just help. And then on stream, he told me what it was, and I was completely unprepared for it. So I don't know that I really did him any favors, but yes, I mean, I sort of in some kind of like informal way advised him of how I would kind of like approach what he was going to do. I have no clue how it went or if it's even online already or anything.
I think it was I think I saw it earlier today. I think they did it. Like, I think it might have been over like an hour ago, like very recently, I think.
Okay.
In terms of like political positions, I know it's so hard to like do labels these days, but like, would you consider yourself like a soc dem or like a traditional Democrat, or like what do you think you fall?
Yeah,
on
I'm a
that
social democrat. I'm a social democrat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't get to talk to other Jewish people about politics much, so because Dan here only plays video games and does business stuff. Do you
And
ever?
is that like a different experience or?
I don't know because I don't have like I don't have that
Well,
lived
we're the chosen people, as he said.
No,
He
shut the
wants
fuck
to know what
up.
happened
Because
Friday
anti-Semitism is such a weird thing today, and I don't have any lived experiences with any anti-Semitic stuff because I'm not Jewish. I don't have that experience.
Right.
I'm curious, and then a lot of this stuff I don't even think about because I don't have that lived experience at all. Do you ever feel? I have fans that point this out to me, and especially somebody did related to like the Labour Party in the UK, especially, and then some of the stuff going on the left here. Do you ever feel like when progressives or people on the left talk about Israel, do you ever feel like sometimes there are some anti-Semitic like undertones in what's being said? Or I'm curious how you engage with that when it comes to people on the left. Like, what are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, you have to be really careful with this. This is why I often don't talk about this, because everyone will just be basically displeased with my position. My position is criticism of Israeli foreign policy is not inherently anti-Semitic. Supporting the Israeli BDS movement, which I don't support, is not inherently anti-Semitic, but it is functionally a cover for anti-Semitism for many people. That doesn't mean everybody.
Yeah.
And every time I talk about this, I'll get emails from people saying, David, how dare you say that it is anti-Semitic. And it's like, well, I didn't say it is. I said it can be a cover. It provides cover for some people.
Yeah, it feels really weird where like, and especially happens, I'm sure it's happened to you, but like sometimes you'll come out in support of a political position and then other people will be rallying alongside you, but then you kind of like look sideways and you see their rhetoric and you're like, wait a second, I'm not, and it happens a lot with the Israeli stuff. Like I would consider myself to be probably pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli, like, I don't know if you'd say like foreign policy or military policy or whatever for stuff that goes on there. But then when people come out and it's like, Israeli soldiers, the IDF are literal savages that just want to like rape and murder people. It's like, damn, like, I don't know if I would go that far. It makes me, the stuff related to Ilhan, some of the things that she says like make me really, especially because I've spent so much time debating the alt-right, and then like some people try to say tweets that like I know that it's really old, but like the whole idea of like Israel has hypnotized the world. Like I look at stuff like that and I'm like, Jesus, like I don't know, man. If Richard Spencer said that, I wouldn't hesitate for a second to say like this is obviously some alt-right like anti-Semitic shit.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know which part you wanted me to react to specifically, but.
Yeah, we don't have to go into this too deeply. Yeah, no. We don't have to dig into this too deeply. Like I said, I guess it's a different experience for you, because I don't have to deal with this like. Well,
it's different for me in that no matter.
You're completely.
wait, hold on.
I'm blinded by being Jewish.
Wait, no matter.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
I feel like this is a bad idea to go into this type of stuff. This is gonna blow up your email.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. We can move past.
In all seriousness, though, is my microphone cutting out? Because if it is, I think people are saying
it just cut out as you were saying that.
That's
but if
so
we're cutting
weird.
off for you too, it's something. Listen, I think it's the overlords from
Maybe
the Friday night.
I'm gonna try to switch real quick. I'm just gonna click the Discord thing to switch the server, and maybe that'll change it a little bit. Okay. I'm switching to US Central. Okay. Hello.
Wow. Hello.
All right. We'll see if this
Oh
helps.
wow, you're not out of sync anymore. Your mouth moves when you talk for me. That's amazing.
Okay. In terms of like how the primaries and everything are shaping up, what are like your general thoughts, I guess, on the debates on which candidate you think is doing better? Are there like any surprise candidates that like, what are like your general thoughts on that?
I mean, no to all of it. It's just basically, I mean, like, okay, if you look historically, very frequently, whoever's winning in August of the year before ends up being the nominee. That's number one. When it's not the person who's leading at this point, it's definitely someone who's in the top few. So basically everyone who's polling 2% or less right now, it would be completely ahistorical for them to be the nominees. A lot of them should start getting out. A lot of them aren't going to be allowed into the third debate anyway, because they're not going to meet the requirements. The second debate basically changed nothing. Like Biden's polling didn't change. There's all sorts of people who are like, my 1%er is all of a sudden going to be in this thing as soon as they debate. It's like they're all still at 1%.
Yeah.
Bernie lost a couple points, I think. Warren gained. I mean, it's like the debates don't really all the debates are who is best prepared with some kind of kill shot moment, gotcha moment that they're going to try to execute, because you can't really talk in depth about policy during those debates. Like the format doesn't allow it. The moderators frame the questions in absurd ways just to try to foment like petty disagreements between people and get people to attack other candidates. So the debates are sort of like, they're just political theater. You're not really going to learn much about policy. So, I mean, like that's it. I don't think until we get fewer people on the stage, we're not really going to know in more depth what the candidates believe unless you actually go to their websites and read their platform, which very few people seem willing to do.
Yeah. For the next line of debates, I think they said it's probably going to be narrowed down to like 8 or 9 people at the most, depending on.
Yeah, the last I looked, like if it were today, I think there would be like 7 or 8 people who have made it, and there's some who are borderline. It'll depend on the polling in the next month and if they hit the number of donors.
Do you know if they have 9 coming up? I don't know if you have special information or if you follow this. I haven't been able to find answers. Are they going to do like 2 debates with 5 people each, or is it just going to be one more stage full of 9 people again, do you think?
My thought was that if it's 10 or fewer, it's just one night, but I don't know.
Ugh, that sucks, because narrowing the field then doesn't really make the debates any better. It just...
Still, I think if it's 7 or 8 on one stage, we're still better off. In particular, because then you're still getting people who have a shot talking. Like that's the thing. Even if you still have 8 people on stage, if all 8 of those people have at least like 2% support, that's better than people with 0.3 who get 15 minutes to talk or whatever.
That have
I'm all for a ton of candidates, but it's like clear at this point that a lot of these people are going nowhere.
For sure. Is there like a particular candidate that you're kind of pulling for right now, or?
I mean, my politics are like Bernie Warren politics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really my area. I've been interviewing Andrew Yang for more than a year, and I think a lot of his policies are interesting, and I've been finding his campaign really, really compelling in a lot of ways. I think it's not appearing as though he's really going to be a contender. So I'm really paying attention to, like, can Bernie and Warren consolidate the progressive support? Is the progressive movement better off by having both of them together at one time? At a certain point, if one of them is going to defeat Biden, the progressive support will have to consolidate around one of them. And, like, what are the mechanisms that will allow that to happen? When should that happen? I don't know, but their politics are basically the most in line with mine.
Okay.
Do you think that if Biden takes like, I don't know, Harris or Warren or something as a VP, that it's basically, it's over at that point if once one of them concedes as far as that? Do you think that one of these
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
If one of these candidates drops out, like, so hypothetically, if we were to get like Kamala to drop out tomorrow and say that she was going to, and then Biden saying, hey, Kamala is going to be my VP. Do you think that there's enough leeway for Sanders or any of these other teams to make up that ground and compete? Or
I don't know that that's typically done that at such an early stage. Usually it's only candidates who have no shot who try to get some attention by naming their VP really early. But it's basically not done. So I would be I don't know how I would react. I would be shocked if that happened, but I don't expect that to happen.
Okay. What's the I guess kind of like closing stuff. What's like the next big thing that you're involved in?
The next big thing. Do you
have any big like debate or plan or anything coming up? Or
I guess I'm trying to figure out whether I will or won't be at Politicon in Nashville in October.
Wait, why wouldn't you go?
I just don't. I don't have a deal right now formalized. So they've announced the event. It's in October in Nashville, but I don't have anything signed that I'm going to be there. So I'm hoping to finalize that soon, and announce that hopefully.
You should do it 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm just waiting for them, honestly. I don't even know kind of like what's going on. My manager is talking to them, and I don't know. I think that it's like a whole new staff this year, and we pitched them a couple of ideas. I don't know if they like them, but that's the next big thing to announce, like as an in-person thing.
Okay, cool. And then what's the next big like political thing you're looking forward to?
I don't know. Twitch. What else? Okay. No, I mean, I guess the debates, the next set of debates, smaller, fewer people on stage. We're going on like David Pakman show summer break in 10 days. And then we'll be back and just be doing a lot of live streaming coverage of debates, in-person events. I've got a gig in Rochester. I'm giving a keynote address at the Grassroots Radio Conference. If anybody will be in Rochester, New York in October. You can Google that. Trying to think. I guess that's really it. Just doing the show.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, do you have any final questions, Dan?
No, this answered all of my David Pakman thoughts. So.
Okay, cool. Well, hey, we really appreciate you coming on. It's been fun. Good luck in your future ventures and in your, I guess, like your Twitch stuff. So, yeah. All
right, thanks. I'll forward you guys anti-Semitic emails I get.
Okay, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Have a good one, man. We'll catch you guys next episode.
All right, see you guys. Yep. Thanks. Talk soon.
Bye.
Hearings on shadow banning and shit like that, which is just...
Or Diamond and Silk's appearance before...
Yeah, exactly. I mean...